to be able to work with your spouse?
There are plenty, I'm thinking about it. There are plenty of couples across the country that make it work. As a matter of fact, nearly 2 million couples and spouses run a small business together, and that's not including the couples who work together in the same office.
Well, today we're joined by one couple that has not only been married 22 years, but has mastered the art of working together as well. Krista and Brian Dempshire are sales experts who co-host the podcast She Sells, He Sells, and they're sharing their do's and don'ts of working together. Nice to have you both with us this afternoon.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back alongside with my husband.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about it. You work together, you're married, you're raising kids together, you're podcasting together. I assume you're eating together, cooking together. How did you get here? How do you do it all?
Yes, well, it's interesting. Our story actually began in the 3rd grade. Brian and I were the final 2 contestants in a spelling bee. This is a story we share on the very first episode of our podcast, and I'll give you a little spoiler alert. I did not win. He actually clinched the title by correctly spelling the word taco. Luckily, I am better at business than I am at spelling.
And I can attest to that. So for the last 13 years, I've been watching Krista build a business as an entrepreneur from the ground up while I've been the corporate guy. I've worked for larger companies in sales, management, and training. And initially, we didn't really understand how much those 2 things overlapped. And when we finally did recognize that, that was the start of the podcast, and that began our work relationship together.
Let me ask you a personal question. I'm actually very curious as I see you guys talking to us together. So, there's, I don't want to use the old phrase because I think it's a bit sexist, but so in every couple, there's a dynamic, right? Of one person is kind of like more of the boss, the other person isn't the boss. And in sort of the work relationship, in the house relationship, how does that work? Who is in charge at certain times? Does it change? How does it work?
I'll let Brian answer this one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, thanks. I think you just answered it, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it does. Right. Well, I guess since you let me answer the question, that probably is the answer to your question, Corey. But no, I think we share the duties as much as we can. There are definitely some things that we divide that belong in my area, that belong in Krista's area. But I think, whenever you're an entrepreneur, whenever you're working and living in the same house, right, and you've got all these things to manage, really, you're sort of getting by on a week-to-week basis and sort of changing things up as needed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, well, so how do you make it work so you don't get tired of seeing each other all the time? Because that's just a normal thing with people. I mean, you see each other enough and it's enough. What do you do? Do you say I'm having a self-care day, I'm having a spa day, I'm going for a walk, I'm not going to work out with you? What do? Do you have certain hours that you're not together?
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult because in a 9-to-5, sometimes you can leave work at the office, but here the office is your home. And so sometimes there's no escaping each other, but it's flexible. So we can talk about work whenever, but we can also, hold up the white flag and say, I'm out, I'm taking a break, and really enjoy that flexibility as well.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things about, the corporate world in the last 5 to 10 years, I think, is employers now really understand how valuable that time off is and how much of a difference that makes in the lives of their employees. So we try to apply the same principle here. When one of us needs that spa day or a gym day on their own, or even a fly fishing day, we recognize that it's important to take that day and sort of recharge and refocus so we can come back and be our best selves.
I am not the fly fisherman.
Well, so, there'll be times I'll ask for a day off and I'll be rejected. Does that ever happen? We're like, sorry, no.
It does happen to me, Corey. I actually asked for Friday off to go fishing, and I got it.
There you go.
Wow. So we definitely know who's in charge. Okay, so if somebody is watching and thinking about starting a working relationship with a partner or a spouse, what do you think that those 2 people have to ask themselves first?
Yeah, well, I think communication is the first thing. And I think we've got to come up with a clear route to communicating that makes sense to us. A lot of people expect us to say, well, at the end of the workday, we stop working and we don't talk about business outside the business day. But that's just not a communication rule that works for us.
Yeah.
If our kids are downstairs watching a movie in the basement and we're up in the dining room finishing dinner and the conversation turns to work, that works for our communication rules. And the important thing here is that you find what those rules are that make the most sense to you.
Yeah, and it's also about expectations. So before we started, we had to have a really real conversation and make sure we were on the same page. We knew that, especially with the podcast, it's about consistency. So are we both willing to put the time and energy into making this work? And that really made sure that the venture was a success.
Yeah. So you guys are great, and you're like, you're like the example, the model of the couple that it's works perfect. It's great. It's all, it's roses and fly fishing. It's wonderful. But
Well, actually, he didn't get to the fly fishing.
exactly. But it's not every couple, right? And there are some couples that go into this, good intentions, and things don't quite align the right way. And maybe some failures in this aspect of life impact other aspects of life. I mean, I don't know. Like, do you have a backup plan when you go into something like this, or what's a good piece of advice for somebody that's going to jump into it?
Yeah, and the way we think about this, Corey, is 2 generations ago, it was really common for our grandparents to spend an entire 40-year career working for one employer. And what we all know is that in this day and age, that's just really not the case anymore, right? Job transition is a normal thing. So we don't think of this in terms of having one major backup plan, as much as we think of it like, as entrepreneurs, we're building a skill set that's transferable to any new opportunity that may come our way in the future.
Yeah, we're confident in our ability to make this work and the plan that we're ready to execute to continue making the podcast a success. But if we need to pivot, we know that the skills we're building from this venture are going to make us even more marketable to other jobs and opportunities in the future.
I love that. I love that, keeping it all open. Yeah. Well, have they convinced you? Maybe you should go into business with your wife? Not yet?
Oh, I'm staying silent on that.
He's thinking about it. Krista and Brian, thank you both so much for joining us this afternoon. We sure appreciate it. Nice to see you.
Thanks so much
for having us.
All right, you can check out their website, She Sells, He Sells. They drop new episodes every Monday. You can also find them on Instagram or follow Krista at Krista Dempscher.